Hey there. Today we're diving into something that, honestly, doesn't get talked about enough. Grass clipping humus. It's way more important for your garden than you might think, trust me. Listen, I need to tell you something that might blow your mind. Those grass clippings you've been obsessing over, they take way longer to become actual humus than anyone's been telling you. And I'm not talking about that half-decomposed stuff that still smells a bit funky. I'm talking about real, genuine, soil-building humus that transforms your garden. For the past 18 months, I've been running an experiment that nobody else seems willing to do. I took fresh grass clippings and tracked them week by week, month by month, documenting every single stage of their journey from lawn waste to black gold. No hot composting tricks, no constant turning, no temperature monitoring, just grass clippings doing what they naturally do, and me taking notes like an obsessed gardening detective. What I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about composting. More importantly, it's going to change how you think about every single grass clipping that comes off your lawn. So, grab your favorite gardening beverage, and let me walk you through what really happens when grass becomes humus. Here's the truth bomb. Grass clippings take 12 to 14 months to become true humus. Not compost, not decomposed organic matter. Humus. And yes, there's a massive difference that directly affects your soil quality for years to come. I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. Every composting guide out there promises quick results. Add grass clippings to your pile, and in 6 to 8 weeks, you'll have usable compost. And sure, that's technically true if you're running a hot compost system with perfect ratios and constant turning, but that's not what most of us do, and it's definitely not what creates humus. Humus is the stable, long-lasting form of organic matter that doesn't break down further. It's what gives forest soil that incredible structure and water-holding capacity. It's the difference between adding temporary organic matter and actually building soil that stays built. And grass clippings, left to their own devices with just a little management, will get you there. It just takes time. Alright, so, let's talk about the green mush phase. This is the part where your grass clippings start to break down, and, honestly, it gets kinda gross. The pile turns into this slimy, smelly mess that, yeah, looks like green mush. It's totally normal though. I know it can seem a little off-putting, but it's just the natural process of decomposition kicking in. Let me paint you a picture of what happens in the first 30 days, because this is where most gardeners get discouraged and think they're doing something wrong. You pile up your fresh grass clippings, probably feeling pretty good about yourself for not sending them to the landfill. Within 3 to 5 days, something weird starts happening. The pile heats up. If you stick your hand in there, it's genuinely warm, sometimes almost hot to the touch. The grass turns from that fresh green color to a dull, olive-brownish shade. And if you've made the same mistake I made in my first pile, piling those clippings thick without any air gaps, you're about to experience the smell. That sour, almost vinegar-like smell that makes you wonder if you've accidentally created some kind of lawn-based science experiment gone wrong. What's happening is actually fascinating. The nitrogen-rich grass is decomposing so fast that the bacteria involved are literally running out of oxygen. They switch to anaerobic digestion, which produces those lovely odors. The pile also compacts down into this dense, matted layer that looks like green slime when you peel it back. This is completely normal, but it's also completely not humus yet. By the end of month 1, your pile has shrunk to maybe half its original height. When you dig into it, you'll find layers of decomposing grass that range from still recognizable blades on top to slimy mush on the bottom. The temperature starts dropping as the initial feeding frenzy calms down. And this is the point where the real work begins, though you won't see much happening on the surface. Beneath the surface, something amazing is happening, even if you can't see it with your own eyes. Microbes are working around the clock, quietly breaking down the grass clippings, transforming them into rich, dark compost. This part of the process is almost magical, because the real action is invisible to us, but it's absolutely vital for healthy soil. This stretch is what I call the faith period of grass clipping composting. On the surface, your pile looks almost the same week after week. It shrinks a bit more. It might develop a crusty dry layer on top. But when you're checking it every weekend like I was, it feels like nothing's happening at all. Except everything is happening. During this phase, I started taking samples every 2 weeks and looking at them under a basic microscope. What I saw was incredible. The fast bacteria that caused all that initial heat and drama were mostly gone. In their place, fungal networks were spreading through the pile like underground highways. These fungi are the unsung heroes of humus creation because they can break down the tough stuff, the cellulose and lignin in grass stems that bacteria struggle with. Around month 3, if you dig into your pile and look closely, you'll start seeing white thread-like strands. That's mycelium, and it's your best friend. Those fungal networks are literally rewiring the chemical structure of your grass clippings, breaking complex molecules into simpler ones and creating the precursors to humic substances. I also discovered something crucial during this phase through my 3 test piles. Moisture matters enormously, but not in the way I expected. The pile I kept consistently moist, like a wrung-out sponge, progressed steadily. The pile I let dry out completely stalled for almost 2 months until I rehydrated it. But the pile I kept too wet stayed in that anaerobic, smelly state far longer than it should have. The sweet spot is moist enough to support microbial life, but not so wet that oxygen can't penetrate. Now, as the compost matures, earthworms start to move in and really get to work. Their activity helps break down the material even further, mixing and aerating the pile. It's just amazing to watch how their presence signals that the compost is entering its final, most fertile stage. This is where all that hard work starts to pay off, transforming your original yard waste into rich, dark, crumbly compost that's absolutely teeming with life. Around the 6-month mark, you're going to feel that first rush of accomplishment. When you dig into your pile now, it actually looks like compost. The individual grass blades are mostly gone. You've got this dark brown, crumbly material that smells earthy and rich. If you showed it to another gardener, they'd probably say, "Nice compost." And they'd be right. This is excellent compost. You could use it in your garden right now and your plants would absolutely love it. But this still isn't humus, and understanding why matters if you want to build long-term soil health. At this stage, the organic matter is still relatively unstable. It's been broken down significantly, but, it will continue decomposing relatively quickly when you add it to your soil. That's not bad. It actually provides a great food source for soil microbes and releases nutrients. During months 7 through 9, I noticed earthworms discovering my piles. I hadn't added them intentionally, they just showed up. And this is when things got really interesting. Earthworms don't just eat organic matter, they transform it. When material passes through an earthworm's digestive system, it gets coated with calcium and mixed with soil particles in a way that creates extremely stable humus compounds. The pile with the most earthworm activity was noticeably darker and honestly, way more soil-like than my control pile that I'd covered with wire mesh to keep worms out. By month 10, impatience was really testing me. The material looked great. It performed great in my test plots. But, I wanted to see this through to true humus formation. As the process continued, I started to notice the development of a humus horizon, which is, that rich, stable layer of organic matter gardeners dream about. Several key factors played a role here, like moisture, temperature, and, of course, the presence of earthworms. Getting these just right was honestly the secret to creating that perfect crumbly humus for my garden beds. So I kept monitoring, kept taking samples, and kept comparing them to actual forest humus I'd collected from a nearby woodland. The transformation in these final months is subtle, but honestly, pretty profound. The color deepens from brown to almost black. The texture becomes less like compost and more like the finest, richest topsoil you've ever seen. At 14 months, I did my final comparison test. I took samples of my grass clipping humus, commercial humus, and topsoil from that forest floor. Under magnification, they were nearly identical. The particle size distribution, the color, the way they interacted with water, all remarkably similar. My grass clippings had finally completed their journey. So, now that we've come this far, let's talk about a practical game plan moving forward. It's really all about taking what we've learned and putting it into action in our own backyards. By understanding how grass clippings break down and become humus, we can make better decisions for our soil, our gardens, and, honestly, our whole approach to sustainable gardening. Here's how I recommend approaching grass clipping humus based on everything I learned. Designate a spot in your yard for a permanent grass clipping pile. Then, and this is key, add to it gradually throughout the mowing season. Don't pile on 8 inches at once if you can avoid it. Keep the pile moist, but not soggy. At 6 months, turn the whole thing over once, then let it sit for another 6 to 8 months. The beauty of this system is that once you get one pile going, you can start a second pile. By the time your first pile is finished, you're halfway through the second one. You create a rotation that gives you a steady supply of genuine humus without the constant management that hot composting requires. So, at the end of the day, healthy soil really is the foundation of a thriving garden. By taking small steps to improve your soil, you'll see big changes in your plants over time. If you haven't started yet, now's the perfect moment to dig in and give your garden the boost it deserves. Thanks for joining me, and hey, happy gardening. After tracking this process for over a year, I'm convinced that grass clippings are one of the most underutilized soil building resources we have. Yes, they take 12 to 14 months to become true humus. Yes, that's longer than the 6 weeks you see in most composting articles. But the end result is worth every single month of patience. This is the kind of soil building that actually builds soil, not just adding organic matter that disappears in a season, but creating lasting improvements that compound year after year. If this real-world timeline and honest tracking helped you see grass clippings in a new light, make sure you're subscribed to Grow with Soil. We're all about testing gardening advice in actual gardens and sharing what really works, not just what sounds good in theory. Drop a comment below sharing your own composting experiences, especially if you've noticed things taking longer than the books promised. And if you know another gardener who's wondering what to do with their grass clippings, share this with them. Let's build better soil together, one patient pile at a time.